Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. As always, I'm Jonathan, your host here at QuickBird Gaming. Thanks for tuning in for another episode of QuickBird News. I really appreciate that. So as usual, we got lots to talk about. We've got some bad news on the Bioshock front. We've got some bad news on the Monster Hunter Wilds front, and some updates to the Nintendo pricing. They've made some changes to their hardware. But before we get to all that, we got to start with our lead story, and that is the ongoing censorship of games and on certain platforms, and gamers are starting to fight back a bit. Okay, for the lead story, I'm going to start with 3 articles here, all of which were published on Friday, the 1st of August. The first one is from IGN. It says, MasterCard denies it pressured Steam and itch.io to delist adult games. MasterCard has issued a statement claiming it has, quote, not required restrictions of any activity on game creator sites and platforms, despite allegations from both Steam and itch.io to the contrary. We'll go over to their tweet. It says, clarifying recent headlines on gaming content. MasterCard has not evaluated any game or required restrictions of any activity on game creator sites and platforms, contrary to media reports and allegations.
A bullshit? A bullshit?
Yeah, exactly. Our payment network follows standards based on the rule of law. Put simply, we allow lawful purchases, all lawful purchases on our network. And then they were down here, they were community noted. Both Steam and itch have stated their removal of adult content came from pressure by payment processors, including MasterCard, primarily them and Visa. Furthermore, MasterCard and other processors have a documented history of refusing service to Japanese retailers over adult legal content. And they've been in some hot water with the Japanese government over this. Now, coming back to this article and scroll down, okay, this is a rehash of what they said. This statement came in response to recent actions from both Steam and itch.io to remove or restrict adult content from the storefronts. Okay, this was that Steam removed numerous adult-only games, followed by a move from itch.io. I'm really having trouble with itch.io tonight. And so on and so forth. In the same post, itch shared a statement from payment processor Stripe, which passed the buck another step further to banking partners while confirming it would not be able to support adult content that is designed for sexual gratification. Okay, and this talks a little bit about collective shout. I don't want to give these people any more airtime than I need to at the moment. And in the wake of these decisions, many have joined a campaign to put pressure on payment processors such as MasterCard to reverse their decision. As Aftermath reports, grassroots are attempting to bombard customer support centers for Visa and MasterCard, Stripe, and PayPal with phone calls demanding the companies to back off. Thus far, the effect this effort has had has been largely anecdotal. However, MasterCard's statement today is the first indication pressure might be having a real impact and has emboldened the community to continue protest, tipping the scales. Now, this is all pretty... I could spend the entire news segment that I'm doing tonight on this subject. So I'm just going to try and stick with the facts here. I'm going to have a separate video posted in the next day or two about all of my thoughts about this. But I'm just trying to kind of give you the highlights and say, we know it's done. This is an ongoing story. This story's been developing for several weeks. But now we're starting to see some pushback. And we flip over here to this Eurogamer article. Itch begins re-indexing free adult NSFW content as it seeks alternative payment processors. Itch.io, the digital distribution platform known for its focus on independent game developers, is today re-indexing adult work content that is available for free. So in other words, not requiring any payment or any interaction with the processors. In addition, it is currently in discussion with payment processors who are comfortable with adult material and will be reintroducing paid content slowly to ensure it can confidentially support the widest range of creators in the long term. So itch is, like I said, starting to fight back by actually putting these programs, these games back up as long as they're not being charged for it. And they're starting to look around for alternatives to people who will accept payment for these games. I think, with time we could move to a model where a lot of these games are made for free and people just donate or tip to them using something like Patreon to support them. And kind of like they're going to put it out there for free, and if you feel like paying us, they will, and it may work out that way. That's just a random thought. And then we have this over here, which was also published same date. GOG preservationists Now, GOG being Good Old Games, the website owned by CD Projekt Red that hosts a lot of legacy games. GOG Preservation has hit back at censorship in gaming by making a bunch of notable NSFW games free to own for a limited time, saying if a game is legal and responsibly made, players should be able to enjoy it. Say distribution website GOG is fighting moralistic lobbyists and avaricious credit card companies demanding games deemed NSFW or removed from storefronts like Steam, not with fire but with links to free boobs, obviously, because of course. With help from publishers, the preservation-friendly site GOG is hosting free downloads to notable titles on freedomtobuy.games, which will make these in a handful of games free to own for 48 hours. Some games vanish, not because they broke the law, but because someone decided they shouldn't exist, GOG writes in a press release. And so reports suggest these actions have been taken with little to no communication and have disproportionately harmed developers producing legal, consensual, and ethically developed content, including creators from marginalized community, the IGDA, International Game Developers Association, said in a statement this week, and GOG is aligning with that concept. Now, as of the posting of this video, which is going to be on the morning of Sunday, the 3rd of August, you'll be down to a handful of hours to collect these games, but I'll show the website here as I'm recording this on Saturday night, and GOG is putting this out there. They're putting out these games that if you want, you can now claim them for free off of Good Old Games until the time runs out. And there you have it. Then you have this from Game Rant, which was published today on Saturday, the 2nd of August. Anti-Steam censorship petition hits a massive milestone. The biggest anti-Steam censorship petition to date has surpassed 200,000 signatures and is still showing few signs of slowing down. It has completely dwarfed the original petition that called for forcibly censoring Steam before payment processors stepped in, granting that wish. See, this over the course of 10 days that followed, the anti-censorship petition blew up from 16,000 signatures on July 22nd to nearly 250,000 as of the afternoon of August the 2nd. To put this in perspective, in just over 2 weeks, the petition collected more than 3 times as many signatures as Collective Shout's campaign did in 4 months. So there are efforts afoot to fight back with this. Itch is looking for alternatives, and they're re-indexing their work. GOG is offering these games for free to people, saying that they're legal and they should be able to play. People are signing petitions. There are other efforts out there. Again, I don't want to go too deep into them in this video, but this is a story that every gamer should be paying attention to. There's a lot of internet censorship running loose right now in various countries in the Western world. And this is not only games is just part of it. That's just the start. This is serious threats. These are all serious threats to our freedom of expression, freedom of information. And they got to kind of be stopped now, because you give too much ground and we're going to find ourselves going right off the cliff. Anyway, as far as games are concerned, this is what's happening. This is where we are as of today, as of August 2nd, as I record this, August 3rd when I post it. MasterCard and Visa, the payment processors have acted, and people are starting to fight back. And as it should be. Okay, we're going to leave alone the censorship story for a few minutes and turn to some other news. And we're going to start with this GameSpot article, which is also from Friday, August 1st. Bioshock remake canceled as Bioshock 4 reportedly fails a review. A new report has shed some more light on the future of the Bioshock series and includes concerning news. According to Bloomberg, the new Bioshock game was first announced in 2019 from developer Cloud Chamber, quote, failed a review, while plans for a remake of the first game has been scuttled. And they basically said the narrative was identified as an area particularly in need of improvement. A source has told the site narrative will now be revamped. The studio head Kelly Gilmore was ousted by 2K Games, and creative director Hogarth de la Plante getting reassigned to a publishing role. And they had an all-hands meeting where this was going on. A spokesperson for 2K Games told Bloomberg Cloud Chamber has a good game, but they wanted committed to delivering a great one. As for the reported Bioshock remake, the report only mentioned it was shelved earlier this year. Bioshock 4 is being made by Cloud Chamber. This is a brand new 2K studio with no games under its belt as of yet. So, Bioshock is a series I really enjoyed. If you've never played the original Bioshock, it has one of the greatest wham moments in video game history. You really should play it if you never have. It's quite a masterpiece. I'm actually glad they're not remaking it, not remastering it. The graphics in the game they look dated, but the sound, the gameplay, and above all, the atmosphere and the narrative are already perfect. They need to just leave it alone. So I'm actually not disappointed to hear that they shelved that remake. As for Bioshock 4, they're clearly in a bad spot. Now, this game was announced, like I said, 2019, so we're going on 6 years since it was announced with nothing to show. In a lot of cases, this means these games are creeping towards or past the $100 million development cost point. And if the game is not ready and it's not working for $100 million, yeah, heads are going to roll. And apparently they did. So, on the one hand, I'm disappointed to hear this, but I'm also glad they're committing to making a great game. And then who knows if it'll actually happen, though, at this point. If they're this deep in the hole, this may become a lost series, a lost game, a lost franchise. It's hard to say. But as of right now, the remake was canceled, and as for Bioshock 4, there's no telling when we're going to see it. Next, I have 2 articles here highlighting how Monster Hunter Wilds has pretty much turned into a shit show the last couple of months. This first one from IGN from Wednesday, the 30th of July. Monster Hunter Wilds in-game expansion moved up as game suffers from soft sales. And the article says that the sales data comes from Capcom's quarterly earnings report for April 1st to June 30th. It basically says Monster Hunter Wilds sold 477,000 copies during that period, just above the 389,000 copies of Monster Hunter Rise. Wilds was the 9th best-selling game of the quarter for Capcom. Wilds was. Did I say Wilds? Okay. Well, Rise was the 10th. And I saw the list, and things like Resident Evil 2 were outselling Wilds for this period. Resident Evil Village, I think, was on that list as well. To be clear, even though Rise is 4 years old, those aren't gangbuster sales either. Okay, and they go down here and they say that it's still growing, but it's slow. Just a few months from its launch, Wild saw a steep sales drop off. 10.1 million copies sold, 8 million of which were in 3 days, which is amazing. And while it's still number 1 as of the best-selling games as of July 5th, for the month of June, it didn't crack the top 20 best-selling games. Why is Wilds having such a bad time? Its in-game content is sorely lacking compared to previous games. It's also suffering from severe performance issues on PC specifically that have yet to be resolved, and that's putting it mildly. So what is Capcom going to do? They are going to release in-game content. They are taking the in-game content, and here this tweet says, an update on the release date and content of this update. It is scheduled for late September, will now be released ahead of schedule, and it says has bumped it up from the end of September to August 13th. The planned expansion will include new level of difficulty, new rewards, etc., etc. I don't think this is going to help them as much as they think it's going to. When you push content forward in a case like this, it smacks of desperation. It's one thing for a developer to come out and say, hey, we were planning on putting this out in September, but we're done, it's ready, we're going to push it out now. It's another one to say, we're pushing this out because people are dissatisfied. That means they're hurrying. That means it's going to be incomplete, most likely. That means it's probably going to have a lot of bugs. And if that's the case, this is just going to further frustrate players and exacerbate the problem. Now, in addition to that, we have that going on. Then we flip over to this Games Radar article, which was published today, well, on Saturday, the 2nd of August. Capcom decides now is the time to release a Monster Hunter Wilds digital soundtrack that costs $75 on Steam and only comes with MP3 files, which is so bad it feels like a mistake. It was all going so well, sarcasm. For all intents and purposes, Monster Hunter Wilds has been going down extremely well since coming out in February. I don't know if this is sarcasm or if the people at Games Radar are just not paying attention. So they decided to put this soundtrack out for $75, and it says all Steam reviews at the time of writing are poor, lambasting the cost and questioning of the logic. I don't lack money, but you are highly desperate to sell an OST at this price. Keep the negative review. So okay, and it says where was I was looking for? Yes, here it is. It's important to note these tunes are all available on streaming services such as Spotify and YouTube. I actually thought this was a mistake. I actually thought there's no way. So I went over to the Steam page for Monster Hunter Wilds and looked, and of course this is out here throbbing like a big red police light. 15% of 12,000 reviews in the last 30 days are positive. 51% overall positive. This game is, and if you read the reviews, it's just full. It's just a litany of poor optimization, bad performance, and all kinds of problems. But I thought, okay, let me see. Here is the content for this game. Let me browse past all these DLCs, all these cosmetics, and you get to the bottom. Original soundtrack, $75. What are we doing? What are we doing here? How can these companies, it's almost like they feel like we're doing too good. Let's purposefully kick our own knees out from underneath us and fall to the ground. It really feels like what Capcom is doing here. You have to be reminded that as the gamer, these companies are not always your friend. Sometimes, especially with smaller companies, I feel like they really do feel an affinity and a kinship to the gamer. But with the big companies, it's really all about dollars. And they are not your friends. They have this game out here that is so incredibly busted, they're trying to band-aid it by pushing stuff ahead that's probably not finished. And then they're trying to sell a soundtrack. A soundtrack for $75. I don't care if there's 120 tracks on it, especially when it's available for free elsewhere. $75 is greed talking. What are we doing? Capcom, you're fumbling. And you're fumbling bad. I hope when Resident Evil 9 comes out next year, it's a banger. Because if it's not... Alright, well, if we're talking about corporate greed, we might as well pivot to Nintendo since they're practically writing the handbook on this in this industry. This article from Insider Gaming from Friday, August 1st, Nintendo Switch 2 sales hit nearly 6 million units in its first month. Okay? It says the Nintendo Switch 2 is a massive success as sales hit nearly 6 million units. And where is that? Okay, just in its first 4 days on the market, the Switch 2 sold 3.5 million units worldwide, making it the fastest selling console in gaming history. Okay, thanks to the success of the console and its higher $450 to $500 price point, Nintendo also saw its year-over-year sales increase by 132%, net profits by approximately 20%. Okay, taken by itself, this is fine. Nintendo's put out a product that people seem to want, and that so be it. I'm not blaming people. I'm not going to criticize people who wanted to play on the Switch 2 and wanted to play Nintendo games. That's fine. Having said that, we'll switch over to this Games Radar article from Thursday, July 31st. Switch price increases leak early as Nintendo bumps consoles up by 50 in the US, makes Joy-Con 2's $5 more expensive, and slaps another $10 on my beloved Alarmo. And this is the update to the article. U.S. retailer Target seems to have leaked Nintendo's price increases early. The OG Switch model will now be $340, up from $300. The Switch OLED will be competitor with its next-gen counterpart, $400, up from $350, and the Switch Lite 2 will be $230, up from $200, according to the chain's website. And then it talks about the other price bumps. $10 for the Alarmo from $100 to $110. Switch 2 owners will only feel the effects of $5 increase for the already pretty pricey Joy-Con 2 controllers, now $100. So not content with the billions of dollars they just made on the Switch 2, they are jacking up the price on their original hardware. And I think the original Switch came out, in 2017? That's 8-year-old hardware that they are increasing the price by 10 to 20% on these models. Who does that? Who tries to increase the price on old, better performing hardware? I'll tell you who does it. A greedy company is who does it. Now, I'm stressing again, I am not attacking the players who use these games. However, you are supporting this. This is the company you're supporting. A company that, and Nintendo tries to say they're blaming it on market conditions, saying tariffs are causing the price increases. I don't know of any other company in this industry, hardware or software, that raises prices on their product that's almost 10 years old. That just doesn't happen. But Nintendo will do it because they can get away with it, because their audience is captive by their own practice. You don't have to be captive for this, and you shouldn't support it. So this is, here's Nintendo doing this again, and they're going to get away with it. And what else is there to say? It's just very disappointing. I probably could have put this story up at the beginning after the stories about the Steam and itch.io censorship, but I want to talk about a few other things. So circling back to it now, this Dual Shockers article posted on Thursday, the 31st of July. Popular hero shooter commits to catch more toxic behavior by listening in on voice chat. So with Season 3.5 almost upon us, Marvel Rivals is taking strong measures to combat toxicity. They've taken aim at the chat as well, with new systems in place to fight toxic behavior to make Marvel Rivals a better place for everyone. Marvel Rivals now has automatic screening with human review of in-game voice chat and will be adding custom text filters when Season 3.5 launches, NetEase Games announced. Okay, the new moderation system in question will affect not just text chat but voice chat as well, and the latter was implemented in the game last week. For one, this is a game from NetEase that when it launched last year, people were reporting that in text chat you were not able to type certain things. The year 1989, the terms Tiananmen Square, 1989 being when Tiananmen Square occurred, when that clash between protesters and the army occurred. You were not able to type Winnie the Pooh, if I remember correctly, since people use that as a derogatory reference to Xi Jinping, the premier of the CCP in China. If anyone thinks that this will be used primarily to combat toxic behavior, God bless you for your naive innocence. Yeah, sure, if somebody throws a racial slur out, the people at NetEase might suspend or ban that person. Such actions give them a good cover. But what is actually going to happen, I will not be shocked if after this is working, people start reporting that things they're saying that have nothing to do with toxicity, nothing to do with bad behavior, but are simply critical, say, of the Chinese government. Go in that and mention Tibet and see what happens. They talk about the persecution of the Uyghur Muslim people in China and see what happens. I bet people will start reporting they're getting their accounts banned or suspended. I think it's inevitable. And the fact that Dual Shockers didn't pick up on this in the article, didn't even raise the concern, it tells me one of two things. They're incredibly stupid, because a 4-year-old could have made this connection. And I don't think they're stupid. The other possibility is they willfully ignored it and omitted that as an angle in this article, which once again just tells me how badly the games journalism industry is captivated by the game developers. Like I said in a couple of segments ago, the game developers are not your friend. The games journalists are not your friend. Do not listen to what these companies say. Watch what they do. Use your eyes and pay attention, because if you don't, they're going to keep bamboozling you over and over. So, as they say, keep your head on a swivel and don't ever drop your guard with these people. Following that, here's a classic reason why you shouldn't trust these people. This article from Eurogamer, which comes to us from Tuesday, the 29th of July. Warner Brother Games is working on another live service game despite Suicide Squad flop. And according to a new job for an executive producer at WB Games Montreal has been listed, which includes mention of development from concept to post-launch live operations, okay? And the experience required includes, quote, deep understanding of the full game development lifecycle, including live services. Now, this is the only fragment we have that's indicating this is going on. It may be boilerplate language, but if Warner Brothers is in fact working on another live service, They are 100% retarded. There is no other way around this. This is a company that is already billions of dollars in the hole in their gaming division. They lost tons of money on Suicide Squad. They had to cancel that. They shut down multiverses already, so that's 2 live services they've canned within the last year, just this year, calendar year. And they canceled Wonder Woman, a game they were $100 million in the hole on, and shut down Monolith Studios, the studio that brought us games like the Shadow of Mordor games and Fear, and had a pretty good pedigree. But they made it, instead of letting them work on that, they made them work on a live service. Wonder Woman was said to have live service elements in it too. And it's gone. This company put out Hogwarts Legacy 2 years ago and made millions of dollars, hundreds of millions of dollars on it. And they've squandered it all in 2 years with crap. And they're looking to produce, if this is to be believed, they're looking to produce more crap. At this point, Warner Brothers pretty much needs to be chopped up and sold off for parts. They're too incompetent to do anything else. And it's a shame. Because if you think about the Batman Arkham games that come out of Rocksteady from them, and obviously Hogwarts Legacy did well, they've had some real bangers, but this ain't it, fam. Next, we have this article from Eurogamer, which comes to us from Tuesday, the 29th of July. Sony sues Tencent over slavish Horizon knockoff Light of Motriam. PlayStation maker Sony is suing Tencent for allegedly ripping off its Horizon video game franchise. Towards the end of last year, Tencent development studio Polaris Quest revealed Light of Motriam, a post-apocalyptic open-world survival crafting game with mechanized animal-like creatures, which looked remarkably similar to Guerrilla and PlayStation's Horizon series. Guerrilla being the company for PlayStation that developed the Horizon series, which includes Horizon Zero Dawn and Horizon Forbidden West. And I think they have a third game in development. I played Horizon Zero Dawn. I liked it well enough. Now Sony is suing Tencent for copyright and trademark infringement in California federal court, calling Light of Motriam a slavish clone of the Horizon games. Now we can come down here. This is all promotional material. You can see the Horizon franchise is Aloy on the right, the protagonist, I guess, for Light of Motriam. Aloy on the left, sorry, and the protagonist for Light of Motriam on the right. Then again, left and right comparisons. Similarities in dress, I suppose. And then some of the critters from the game, left and right. I guess we'll see where this goes. If I wanted to be snarky about this, I could say that the fact that Nintendo has been so litigious in their outlook is encouraging other companies to follow suit. But realistically, companies have the right to protect their IP, and Sony, may be doing this without any kind of influence on Nintendo's part, intentional or unintentional. I have to say that looking at the promotional materials, these do look very similar. There's no question about it. I also did watch a trailer for Lights of Motriam, and it does look similar superficially to Horizon. It also bears resemblance to the Monster Hunter series. At some point, a lot of these games start to kind of bleed into each other. And the fact that Light of Motriam is touted as a survival and crafting game, whereas I would describe the Horizon games more as action-adventure types of games, or with some RPG elements strapped on top. So they will probably be different games. Like I said, I watched the trailer for Light of Motriam. I was interested in it. Who knows if it'll actually happen now with this happening. I guess Sony is a big company and has a lot of lawyers, but Tencent's a bigger company. So I guess whoever can put up the most effective defense will prevail here. We'll see what happens. I'll finish with this one this week. This article from Insider Gaming coming to us from Wednesday, July 30th. Peak adds cannibalism in its latest update. After saying it couldn't do it, developer Team Peak and publisher Aggro Crab have announced that it has added cannibalism to Peak in the game's latest update. Update 11 was announced on Tuesday, and it comes the major edition players have been begging for. Here's the text of it over on Steam, the patch notes. Hey guys, totally normal update to the game. Nothing to see here, though I'll mention that Polish and Turkish translations are in. Thumbs up for that. More widespread for more languages is a good thing. Okay, blah, blah, blah. We come down here, patch notes, added cannibalism. Totally normal. Nothing to see here. And of course, they did address that they added a few other things. These guys, Aggro Crab, are actually pretty funny. They just seem to there were no shits given when they're on their social media, and you got to appreciate that. Peak's been quite a sensation, cooperative game, seeing a lot of people really enjoying it, and now I guess if you can't eat the rich, you might as well eat each other. All right, folks, on that cannibalistic note, I'm going to leave things there for this week. Thanks for tuning in for another episode of Quick Bird News. As always, if you enjoyed this content, please consider leaving a like on the video, drop a comment down below, and let me know if there's a major story that you think I should have covered this week, or talk about one of the other stories I did cover. I appreciate that. I read all comments and try to answer as many of them as I can. And if you haven't subscribed to the channel and you enjoy this content, please do so. It's one click. It helps me out a whole bunch if you do. I'm still trying to grow the channel and get it in front of more eyes. So I would appreciate if you did that. Anyway, I'm going to call it quits here. Thank you for tuning in. You all go out there, live your best lives, and you all stay gaming.